Welcome back to Cool Spot. And now let's do some waiting around.
Oh.
Ha.
Okay.
Alright, so this is not a water level. We won't get an actual proper water level till the sequel. This is because if you do fall in the water, you do die. Don't worry about that though. The platforming is relatively simple. As long as you don't poke your nose, you should be fine.
Can you see that?
It does seem like you have to. Don't worry. Basically, much like in a Sonic game, the spots are there to guide your way. Basically, look at the spot, and that's basically the area where you're supposed to jump. Basically, and you'll be able to spot the platforms. Trust me, it is actually pretty fine when you're playing it. It works fine enough. There you go.
Yeah, I can see they may determine that bit also the distance where you need to use the jump.
Mm-hmm. Alright, I can get there. Alright, time to use the bubbles. There you go.
What kind of place is this? Like a bathtub?
Remember, we have David and his team have nothing to work with in terms of setting or story, so they're just so just smoke the same drugs they did when they did it from gym, and there you go.
But don't you, the cool spot lore is so rich.
Especially considering how.
Looks like they're in like a beach hut shop.
But Shiro, look at the surfboards. Look how radical this is.
Yeah, maybe Shiro is right. Maybe this is a shop. And the fish has a tag called with "Kiss Me" on it.
Yes.
Okay then.
Fuck. Well, I screwed up there. All right, let's try that again.
Like this looks like to be in the middle of like a paddling pool.
Yep, it is actually. Good.
Huh.
Good notice. Again, it feels a lot like it's kind of like the Micro Machine, the early Micro Machines games from this era. Like it feels a lot like they just took. Okay, let's make it so that the characters are in all these giant tables or giant bathrooms, something like that. There you go. Oh, about the spaceships. The spaceships turn sideways and let you drop as the moment you jump on them. So basically, the moment you jump on them, jump immediately to the next one. There you go.
Does that change depending on the color? Because there were green ones too.
Green ones? Oh no! You're thinking of something else, Shiro. Not those. Hold on. I'm gonna go through them again so you'll be able to see. Hold on.
Yeah, I can see that this level has a lot of instances where you need to get the points, but you get dropped back to a earlier part of the level.
Fortunately, that's only if you're like me and you're looking for the bonus level. Like, remember, you only need 30% if you go for the level just straight up without going back, you'll get 30% fine and go over. It's only if you're trying to 100% the game like I am that you'll have to do that. There you go, Sharon. Notice those little circles.
Yeah, I see them now.
There you go. Basically, as long as you might notice how whenever I step on them, it's a typical platforming that you usually see. There you go. By me. There you go. Alrighty. Ooh, there you go. Oh fuck.
Jesus.
Alright, let's try that again.
Yeah, I can see that this level is all about verticality.
It is. One thing you'll notice, how those wires, the wires are your hint for where the next platform is, obviously, because the platforms are being suspended by wires. So basically, pay attention to the wires. Apologies to... Can you... I'm curious, Shira, can you see the wires fine, or is
That's
this...
a no.
So this is one of those where you'd have to ask Alice to play it for you.
Yeah.
Alright. So basically, this is one of those cases of a level that sadly doesn't pay mind to people with
that's also
eyesight.
another thing. The wires are
the
clear.
contrast isn't very good, is what you're...
Yeah, the wires are gray on a partially gray background. Oh, jeez.
That's me exploiting the checkpoint system, because remember, if you go dying at the last checkpoint, but you keep all the cool points you've gained. So basically, that's me exploiting the somewhat broken way the checkpoint system works.
Okay.
That way I was able to get all the cool points without having to return all the way back from the beginning of the level. Again, this is the kind of thing you have to know in advance because, I've been playing this game for years, so obviously I already know all the ins and outs. There you go.
Alright.
I'm really hoping at some point Tommy releases his other soundtracks from these early days aside from Earthworm Jim.
There we go. Again, it depends. It depends on who has the right of this game at this point.
Well, actually, too. Granted, I don't work at Tommy Tallarico's studio, so obviously I don't know the details. But considering Tommy owns the music from Jim himself, I'm willing to bet he probably also owns these tracks himself.
I suppose, yeah.
There you go. Basically, to give you an idea, the HD remake of Earthworm Jim, like Tommy wasn't called to work on it, like, but he had zero problem in letting the developers use his tracks. So, because Tommy is, he was credited, of course, but no, he wasn't the one doing the remixes, which explains why the remixes in the remake are not the best. Don't get me wrong, they're decent, but you can tell they're not done by Tommy. Let's just say. There you go. This is probably my personal favorite track in the game. I just love this rave tune.
Yeah, I can hear that.
There you go. There you go.
Also, I can see how they become increasingly difficult in navigating through it, also introducing those spikes.
Yeah, basically each bonus level is progressively harder, which makes sense. Again, it's like I said, like this is a perfectly solid platformer, and like Jova said, there's nothing particularly special about it, but at the same time it works fine, and the presentation gives it a special touch. Tommy's music is of course awesome, and the animation is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
So
again, the contrast on the actual sprite and the background. In this case, the can.
That
7-Up.
That annoying clock.
There you go.
There. Shut up.
Problem solved.
So, what do you think is worse, Pedro? That kind of counter clock, or the one in the Sonic games where you're drowning underwater?
I'll take the Sonic jingle personally. Toying around. Especially the Generations orchestral version. That one's my favorite.
That mold.
That theme in orchestra.
That mold toy looks demented.
Yeah. Remember, Taylor, we're in the 90s, back when everything was...
Dentures.
Remember, Taylor, this was back in the 90s, and everything had cool sunglasses.
You dude!
There you go. So yeah, basically this is of course the toy level of the game, as you can see. The game goes pretty much most of the typical video game stage tropes. We have a toy level, we have a beach level, we have we're gonna have a train level later on, the usual stuff. It comes across as, of course, very typical by today's standards, of course. But remember, this was back in 1993, so it's excusable.
It reminds me a lot of the Toy Story 2 video game that Traveler's Tales made. It actually has a similar approach. Obviously, there's a story also in that game, based on the movie, to go around. But Traveler's Tales actually went above and beyond to try to create the levels fitted situation. And it reminds me a lot of this.
Except this, well, with, if I remember correctly, what they did for Toy Story was they did actual CG animation with the help of Pixar, and they digitized them into sprites for the Mega Drive. Whereas this was, again, using the same techniques that they would later use for Aladdin and Earthworm Jim and draw animation.
I don't know what they did for the Mega Drive game. I was referring mostly to the PlayStation game.
Oh, the PlayStation game.
Yeah, I remember Toy Story 2 was for the PlayStation.
Toy Story 2. Yeah, okay. I'm mostly familiar with the first game, but the first game does that. I can tell you that at least. If I remember correctly, the Toy Story PS1 game just uses typical character models. It doesn't use any particular special technique that I remember.
No, I was mostly referring to the how it's placed in terms of having your character in proportions to these big things in the background and how they are presented to the player. It reminded me of that.
Yeah. Fortunately, in the sequel, we're gonna have more memorable level throws because the sequel, Spot Goes to Hollywood, takes inspiration from various different movies. So we're going to.
Oh, of course.
So
it does the gags.
no, there's no jokes like that. It's mostly just
I don't mean
referential.
that. I mean the levels being set after traditional movie genres.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically, yeah.
It was kind of a thing also of 90s platform. There was Gex, Spot Goes to Hollywood, and then there was that I forgot that Oscar. There you go. That annoying platformer for the Super Nintendo.
Mhm.
Jeez.
It also helps that, and I'm definitely looking forward to showing you guys, because Spot Goes to Hollywood as what is, in my opinion, the best soundtrack that Tommy Tallarico has ever done.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back, Jova. Basically, we're in the toy level. And look at that giant,
see.
and look at that giant sneaker.
A giant shoe.
There you go.
Weird that they didn't use any specific brands and they needed to put it on the sole because of that.
Why are we fighting dentures with legs?
I guess the Joker took over the place.
Wouldn't surprise me.
We,
Why are dentures in a toy shop?
because Shiro, it made sense to David and his team when they were high. It made sense to them.
That, for a couple of decades, it was a common tool for pranks. So
Remember, Shiro, these are the guys who brought us Earthworm Jim. This is par for the course.
The salamander and an intestine. I'll never forget that.
There you go. You can think of this game, both this one and the Terminator one, as them owning their craft before they would on to make the games that they're remembered for nowadays, with the Aladdin and Earthworm Jim games. Basically, think of these as practice before they, kind of like Tiny Toons was the Animaniacs team's first project, so they could, practice before they made the one project that they're remembered for now, which is Animaniacs.
You were saying, Tia?
Too?
To you?
Well, whatever.
Oh, he burped. Okay.
Okay, whatever. The basic point is that, yeah, like I said, basically, and this game in particular is actually the Aladdin game was actually running on the very same engine that this game runs. So basically, this is kind of Aladdin beta engine, in technical terms, obviously. So there you go. Ooh, there you go. Dun, 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 dun. Love the music. Alright, so let's see. I'm almost at 75%. I'm trying to get 75% in each of these levels so I can get the 100% for the best ending. Let me just... Alright, there's another spot. There we go. Alright. Well, sure, there's dentures, yes, but there's also robots. Those fit. So they must have been not entirely high, at least.
Okay.
Anyway, you were saying, Tia?
Oh yeah, no, the thing that instead was really meaning out, there you go, those, the threads, what it's called, those things used for sewing, that you, get threads, tied to, those cylindric, no, the cylindric things that you use threads from, that you pull it from, when sewing.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know
we have a specific name,
Fiddle?
but it's...
Fiddle?
I think I'm gonna check in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that thing is weird for a toy shop to me. The dentures not so much, but that is.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, almost close.
Bonus level. This is the second to last bonus level that we'll be doing.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, let's see. Dun, 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 dun.
And there's stuff falling?
I'm sorry, what, Shuri?
No, actually, those are drops. To simulate the fact that this 7-Up is so cool and refreshing with its taste.
Ah.
Don't you see, Shiro? Don't you just feel like having a 7-Up right now?
No. And fizzy drinks actually make you more thirsty.
Yeah.
That's not what the big companies want you to know.
But don't you see, Shiro? We're the Uncola. I'm not kidding. That was their thing back in the
I
90s.
know.
Is it still? Do they still use the Uncola term? I don't think. I think they dropped
I
it.
don't think so. This is the first time I've actually heard of it.
Yeah, this was back in the 90s. Like, again, remember when people think 7-Up, they think that other cartoon character. You know, the white colored character with the hair. I don't know what the name of that character is. You know the one, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Pedro?
When people think of 7-Up mascot, they think of that other cartoon character. The one.
I don't. Well, I don't know because 7-Up in terms of marketing it's present here in my country, but it doesn't have that much of a relevance. So we never had particular commercials tied to it.
7-Up is the 7-Up mascot that is still used to this day. Most likely is that white character with the hair, the 90s, who also had the 90s thing. But again, this was their attempt to try to make the whole cartoon mascot thing of the 90s. So, there you go.
Anyway, there you go.
Really get any 7-Up adverts around here. We don't
Anyway,
have them, just don't get
Yeah,
them.
the term I was looking for is bobbin. That's what it is.
There we go.
There you go then. Uncall. And let's see if
Sorry, can you get to the...
No.
All right.
Radical rails, dude.
Dude!
Radical train.
And I'm... Alright, basically, remember that bit from Ice Cap Zone where we're slipping through the ice thingies? This is basically a whole level of that.
And you're using the
Oh,
victory
no.
theme.
Yes, this serves as both the level complete theme and you can hear the full version in this level.
Also,
yeah.
why is there a mustache and glasses disguise?
I ask you again, Teo, are you really gonna ask why in a game made by these folks?
Yes, we are.
Also, there's a wristwatch there.
It's like an entire level of jumping up the sand slides the oil slides rather, in Oil Ocean. This is horrible. This is not fun.
It actually is gameplay-wise, I assure you, because basically, one thing that you can do when you're doing is that one thing that most people don't seem to know is that because basically this level loops. Remember, you know how in the ice cap stuff it keeps looping.
That's not helping, but yes.
Well, let me try to explain. Basically, if you just let yourself fall, you'll just go back to the top of the screen. The entire level just loops, right?
I like that Temple of Doom NES video game.
However, one thing that most people don't seem to realize is that you can actually climb up these things if you keep jumping, because since the momentum is not very realistic, you can basically jump through these. So basically, you don't have to. If you do make a mistake, you don't have to make split-second decisions on this level in order to get all the spots if you want. If you realize that you can, let's see, I just demonstrated it. If you realize that you can jump upwards in these things, collecting the spots in this level becomes a whole hell of a lot easier. So basically, take advantage of the fact that the momentum is whacked out, and that way you'll be able to get through the level just fine. But even then, even if, like I said, you only need 40% to complete. So unless you're a completionist, you should be fine. There you go.
God help you if you are.
Well, Shiro, when you're trying to 100% a game, especially games that involve collecting things in an open level, that's just
You're setting yourself up.
Yeah.
I personally know.
There you go.
I only tend to 100% games I really, really like.
Mm-hmm.
This.
Where even is the cage in this sector? That's actually I think
I actually went through it earlier. I actually found it earlier too, but I didn't go to it.
I didn't notice it.
I didn't go because I still don't have 75%. I'm almost there though, 70%.
Yeah, I think this is actually my favorite track of the game, at least so far.
Oh, it's fun.
Particular theme.
Oh yeah. It's very energetic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It makes sense also to be to be used also for the victory theme.
Mm-hmm. It's probably one of those things where because of the rush nature, the rush development of the game, and it's going to become obvious later. They most likely didn't give Tommy enough time to create a proper victory fanfare, so they had to reuse the opening seconds of this track.
Yeah.
Trust me, like it's. I think it's right after. Actually, I think after this, it's the train level, if I remember correctly. Oh. Well, whatever. The point is, one more bonus level, and we're done with the bonus levels.
All right.
Alright, let's see if I get it. Not even close.
Yeah. Well, you were close, actually.
Bonus level.
So
Alright.
can you get the final A?
Yes, I will. You see, Teo, this is your mind on 7-Up.
Can you? Are you enough for a bad dude to survive the experience?
There we go.
I can also see the increased difficulty, like I mentioned, in getting this. It reminds me of the increasingly difficult special stages in a Sonic game to get the Chaos Emeralds.
There you go. This is probably of all the. Remember when David left Virgin to found Shiny, he said that the reason for it is because he was getting tired of making licensed games and he wanted to make something original. I'm willing to bet that because remember both this and Aladdin had rushed developments. So my guess is David was starting to get tired of that bullshit.
Yeah, like
So-
we need to get this in 7 months.
Well, I think, well, yeah, this game probably, yeah, I'm going to go the infinite time because I took too long. This game in particular, there's no background information on the development of this game, not that I've seen at least. But I get the feeling this game was rushed even worse than Aladdin, honestly, because basically, starting with the next part, we're going to basically start reusing level tropes.
Oh.
Just with different layouts. I get the feeling that 7-Up gave David and his team a very tight schedule and budget just to get this shit because they wanted this shit on the market ready so they can make a quick buck. So
maybe it was just because they were beginning. I mean, this does feel a bit like, a first. It's just like, a first installment of sorts. Like, maybe this was just them breaking their legs into the industry.
Well, remember, Jova, the game they made before this was Terminator Sega CD, and that game didn't have repetition, so...
Well, that kind of lent itself to different things as well, different or whatnot, and that was sort of a different...
Close.
What? That was also a different kind of genre of sorts, whereas this is, again, more of a collectathon, as opposed to, just a simple point A to point B platformer like Terminator was.
True.
And even still, let's not forget, Terminator Sega CD wasn't perfect. It did have some
it was,
parts
yeah.
as well.
It was
had weird things like the ending.
Yeah, I was fine with the ending. It was mostly the fact that the gunplay wasn't as good as in Earthworm Jim. That's my biggest concern.
That, and it did have some repetition here and there, or certain levels here and whatnot. It's part of the course.
Sure. Like I said before, this was these games were basically them gaining experience before they would make the masterpieces that they're known for nowadays.
So now that you got all the letters, what's gonna happen?
Later, we'll see the ending in the next part, Teo. So you gotta wait for that. See you next time.
Alright.
Tune in next time for the ending.
See ya.
See ya.
All right.